So I want to say welcome and thank you for joining us. Today is going to be a deep dive of AutoReview. And if you haven't joined us for a deep dive, what this means is the entire episode from front to back is going to be all about our solution. And so today's solution is AutoReview, and we're going to be going through how to set it up, how to use it, and then what are some different use cases and even some tips and tricks. So I am going to go ahead and start with those of you who do not know me. My name is Liz Scott, and I have a firm in Oklahoma, and we focus solely on businesses with QuickBooks and the related ecosystem. And today was a huge day for us. We had 3 different proposals that we put out into the world, and they all came back with yeses, and they were big ones. And so we had a lot to celebrate today. So I'm happy to share that with you because, you know, sometimes whenever you have your virtual worlds and you have your wins, it's like, oh, yeah, you have your little internal wins. But so it was a good win for us today. And one of the things that we do is we actually do reviews every single month for our clients. And so this tool is actually one that is relevant to us because we do the process of finding all of those little problems throughout the client's books. And oh, there's our friend. I'm going to stop for a second so that way we can say hi.
Hi.
Hey, friend.
Hey, how are you? Oh, look at all the people we have in here. I'm sorry I'm late to the party, everybody.
Well, they all know why, that you were training hopping. You were going from one. Yeah, so we're happy that you're here. And we were talking about all of the different things that we're going to be doing and that this is a deep dive and that we're going to be going from setup to using to tips and tricks and other ways to use AutoReview. So you joined just at the right time, Heather.
I am so excited. Yeah, so I was helping all of those U.S. Advanced Certified Pro Advisors get ready to take their advanced certification exam. And it was really exciting for me because this was the first time we presented it.
Ah.
So that was fun. But anyway, that's why I was late to the party. So I am so excited. Hardy, so nice to see you. I saw this tool like probably over a year ago and fell in love with it. And honestly, it has been my dream for years and years, and Liz knows this, to have this tool be a reality. Like this was like, I was so excited when I first saw AutoReview because it's something that we really needed. Like we've automated all this stuff in our lives, but client data review is something that nobody could automate, right? Or not until now. But it was so hard to automate it because there's so many intricacies and so many variables that we look at as practitioners, you know, to make a clean set of books. And so when you guys first showed me AutoReview, I was like, oh my gosh, like, and now you guys have even made it better. So I'm so excited that like we're doing like Appy Hour, we get to do it. Like we get to bring it to the world. So
I agree. And so, you know, I thought, isn't it fun that we're going to be doing all of these various pieces? And so from end to end, and the case study that we're going to be using is again Fantastic Beasts, which, you know, of course, thrills my heart because such a big, huge Harry Potter fan.
Yes, it is. Definitely.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to dive we have a couple of slides where we want to go through and talk about the why, right? Like why, why is it relevant? So let's like start off with that.
So if we start thinking about what is AutoReview, so those of you who haven't heard of it, let's kind of explain a little bit of what exactly it does and how to use it. And then we can then go into how to use it. So whenever you think about AutoReview, the tool itself is designed to go through and do an analysis of the QuickBooks file. And so what that means is it's actually diving through, it's combing through all of the list. So it's actually going to look through your list and find anything that's an anomaly. So maybe a duplicate or something that is even, so we even tested, like maybe there was a period in a similar vendor name, and it was able to find that. So even if it's just similar, but it's not quite a duplicate, it's even able to find those types of similarities. And then also, if there's types of transactions that are in parameters that you set, you can actually create rules that if you say, if the transaction is within so many dollars, I want you to call those transactions out for me to review. So there's a lot of really cool things there to do to be able to look at the books instead of spending, in our world, what can be hours looking through the books, going through either, starting with the balance sheet, going through the profit and loss, looking at all the different accounts, going through and seeing, here's the vendor and here's all of the different times that vendor was used. Was it used the same every single time, or was there a little bit of sloppy bookkeeping? So each of those tasks are very important tasks, but this is where at the end of the year, whenever we start getting busy, it's holiday time, or we're now in January time and we're busy doing either 1099s, W-2s, or both. And then we're quickly moving over into wrapping up the year. So that's why this solution in our world is really key, because we need something that is helping us throughout the year. We need something that is helping us to stay current on all of these things, so that way it's not hitting us at holiday time. When I feel like in our industry, we spend so much time heads down at our desk that, we miss out sometimes on our family. So if we have a tool that gives us back some of our life, yay, let's use it. So
100%. And the other thing I would, sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm just excited.
I am too. And I think the other thing that makes it kind of miraculous is that it does such a great job. How am I going to say this? I got to phrase this right. It does such a great job of pointing out what we should be looking at. And like you said, Liz, it used to take us, like manually, it takes us forever, basically creating reports, filtering reports, going through and figuring out what it is that we actually need to be looking at to find the errors. And once you figure that out, you can create a custom report to do it. But it's all done for us in AutoReview. But what it also does is, I know as a tax practitioner too, I use checklists after I do every return to make sure that I'm paying, there may be things that I don't think about, right? That's one of the benefits of using like a tax software, is that it's taking the client's tax data and it's putting it through an algorithm, to look for certain indicators that would cause a taxpayer to need to file a particular form or be eligible for a particular deduction. And those are things that, with the human mind, I have to have this giant brain and remember all of this tax code and really be on the top of my game to make sure that the clients are getting all the deductions. But the tax software has this technology behind it that brings it to my attention, says, you might want to look at this. And so I feel like AutoReview is exactly in the same class as tax software, because what it's doing is it's got the technology behind it that goes through the QuickBooks data and looks for all the things that I want to look at that I may not even know that I should be looking at. So it becomes an awesome training tool. It becomes an awesome pricing tool. It becomes an awesome cleanup tool. And it's great because everybody in the firm can use it to either learn or do quality control or price, right?
Okay. All right. So you nailed what I was going to say on this next one. So I'm gonna flip it over here. No. It goes directly into this because it is what we need inside the firm.
Yep.
So it's part of that tech stack that we need. And it's like you said, you need to have that big brain in order to be able to go through and do all of those tasks. And if you think about, you need to do all those tasks at holiday time or at year-end crunch time, it's like my brain can get exhausted. And remembering, did I do all of those things? Did I tick all of those boxes? And we have workflow tools. But even in the best scenario with my workflow tools, humans get exhausted. And so that's where you bring in the software. And the software, when you set it up, you don't set it up during your exhaustion period. You set it up whenever you've got time to go through and create your rules. Because look at this, you can create your rules. You can configure your auto review for the client's needs. And that way, throughout the entire year, it's going through and it's making that analysis, like Heather said. So that way, throughout the entire year, it's diving in, it's digging in, it's finding the anomalies and pulling it out and showing you so that way you can resolve it. And then this is wording right here that I actually pulled from a message from Tanya, and I'm gonna give you another little nugget here in a second from Tanya, because Tanya Hiltz is here with us. She is a leading expert in our industry. Most of you know her. She was a Firm of the Future winner, and so she has a lot to say about our industry and a lot to add. And so whenever she gives input, I listen to her. And she gave input into this tool, and her feedback was that she's using this for monthly reviews. She's using this for end of year reviews, diagnostic reviews, pricing, pre-pricing discovery, and coaching for her team. And so all of that is stuff that you can take back and you can go, oh my gosh, one solution can do all of this. And so that's where this conversation goes from, okay, why and what it is and how to use it, to let's come over here and look at some of these benefits. So if we look at what are some of these benefits, here's the actual solution right here. And if we think about the solution itself, which we're going to go live into in a little bit, but they have a navigation bar like we're used to as QuickBooks Online users on the left-hand side, and that has our centers kind of, where we can go in and we can say, here's all of these different taskings that we need to do. So this would be our area for our bookkeeper to review. So this would be all of the different things that we need to go in and look at. And so this makes it simple. This makes it streamlined. This brings in that automation that we've really been looking for. So whenever I think about my bookkeeper can go in and my bookkeeper can go and do the transactional level, but I need to hire somebody who is more of an expert level to go in and do the review. Well, sometimes you miss out on learning opportunities and training opportunities whenever you have the accountant who is separate from the bookkeeper doing those tasks of reviewing, because I think the bookkeeper learns when they go in and they actually review themselves. And that's why I think this is really, really hypercritical to go in and do it yourself and then allow for the next person to come in and do the work, where this is where I'm pulling in Tanya Hiltz. So she's with us today, little shiny star. And so she did a review, and so we're sharing it here. And so what she was saying is that she uses it to be able to say, the bookkeeper performs the first sign off, and then they pass it to the account manager. And that account manager then goes through and they review it, they double check it, and then they sign off on it. And what she was saying is exactly what, Heather, you were indicating earlier, is that you've got that smart brain, but it can get tired and it needs some help. And so she was saying that the AI actually found some errors in her own books, and you can watch her video, in her own books, and she's the only one in her books. And she was like, oh my gosh, how could that even happen? And so she was just, had this profound moment of, wow, it even found some things inside of her own books. And, she was talking about scaling and how would this tool help for that? And it's the time save. It's the level of customer satisfaction that you're able to generate whenever you're able to turn around books on time, close the month on time, say we're ready for year end on time. And so, if clients are impressed, they're talking about you. When your clients aren't impressed, they're also talking about you. So you get those referrals from having good client responses. And here's where I'm going to drop the nugget that Tanya told me I'm allowed to share. I reached out to her and I said, my team hears me all the time. And not that they don't love me, but they hear me a lot. And so I said, can you can you train my team? Like, you've figured out this product, and you've figured out this whole idea of using it for not only the monthly review and the annual review, but also as a training tool and being able to look at it as a pricing engagement. So would you share that with our team and train them? Because Tanya not only has an accounting practice, but she also and bookkeeping practice, but she also trains bookkeeping firms and bookkeepers. And so she is taking us on, and she said that she's doing this as a beta test, but I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity for us to learn from a professional who is doing this herself and tried it out and tested it. So she said I was allowed to share that.
Nice.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm excited. And then somebody else in our industry shared, and I'm going to call out their best feature, or their favorite feature, is down here at the bottom. She said that she actually uses it on a weekly basis. So she started doing it on monthly, and then she was like, you know what? Weekly basis actually worked well. And my call out here is, you know, in the beginning of the month, it's really, really busy. You have a lot of tasks that you're doing. So maybe you're trying to produce financial statements. Maybe you're trying to reconcile all of that. And at the end of the month, you might have a lot of tasks that you're trying to do then. But in the middle of the month, sometimes you have these lulls, or wherever your lulls are in your client workflow, that would maybe be a good time to start adding in these weekly reviews instead of just doing on a monthly basis. And then I'll also pull in Paul. And so Paul was saying what used to take him hours is now taking him 10 minutes. And so that's a huge, you know, that's a huge testimonial to say that that amount of time was saved to be able to do a really good, thorough, and fast review with automation. So with all of that, because, you know, one of the things that my dear friend Ann says is, if the smart people are doing it, then you should pay attention, right?
100%, 100%.
So I think I'm going to pass this over to you, Heather.
Sure. Yeah. So we're going to go through, at this point, I'm going to go through, and I think almost the rest of this is going to be demo, where I just want to go in and show you how easy it is to use it and the wealth of information that, that you get from it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
And let's see.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and share too that we have AutoReview pros here with us. So if you have got questions, we have got them here. They are helping to answer questions and make sure that you're being heard and listened to and responded to.
Awesome. So the first thing that I just want to point out is that, you know, as an accountant user, you have access to the dashboard, where I'm starting out in my dashboard where I have 3 companies here, right? So I have Live Demo, Courtney's Graphic Design, which I actually had disconnected, and then Fantastic Beasts that we're going to go into. But what I wanted to start out with first is to show you how easy it is to connect a company and then instantly see the information and get it configured to start using it. So to add a new company, you just click add file. I'm going to go in and put in the client's name. Give me a name, Liz. How about Scamander? That works.
Oops,
So
I was on mute. I was saying Luna Lovegood, but okay.
Oh, Luna Lovegood? Okay, Luna Lovegood. And then you're going to click your connect to QuickBooks. And I'm already logged into our Appy Hour QuickBooks, so it's going to automatically see me. But if I hadn't, I would put in my username and password. We've all done this before. If you've been on any Appy Hours, you've seen us do this probably 100 times. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my company, and then I can select my client. Now I only have one client here, which is Fantastic Beasts, and it's already connected. So I would basically select that. I would click next. And then at that point, what would happen is it would connect to it and pull it into the dashboard. So once it's done that, oops, where am I? Did it kick me out of AutoReview? What happens? What happens if I connect it again? I want to say no
Yeah,
thanks, right?
it's going to get you a message that the company already exists. So
Okay, so I'll just go back. But what would
yeah,
happen is I would click next, it would connect, it would pull it in, and then it would ask me, there's like a couple of splash screens that we have in our PowerPoint where it basically asks me, and I think I'm going to stop sharing. I don't have the PowerPoint up, Liz. Can you really quickly share those two splash screens? Sorry, I should have opened another browser and logged into another company, but I didn't do that. So if you could just show those two splash screens, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Thanks, honey.
Let me, hang on just a second. I want to get to that piece of the deck, and
It should be right after where you left off.
I had moved it to later.
Oh, got it. Got it. Okay.
Oh, stink, it's still there. Stop share. Well, it's not happy with me. Come back.
Okay,
come
well,
back.
let me see if I can open it.
Let's see, from that slide, start slideshow. Okay, here, I've got it.
Oh, you got
now.
it? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Sorry.
No worries.
My bad. I should have opened another browser so that I could actually finish the process, but
There we go.
my bad. Yes. So this is what happens is after I connect, it's going to ask what was the last month that you finalized the books. So what was the last close that you did? And so here we're saying it's February 2021. And then it's going to ask us, what is the day of the month that you want to finalize the books? So that's going to give you the due dates. And I'll show you this in a moment when I go back to my screen share. Then what you're going to do is you're going to click the next and go to the next slide. And then it's going to ask you, AutoReview has identified below accounts where it will flag any transactions. And really what we're looking for is those big ticket items that we need to give extra scrutiny to. So we're saying that our transaction limit that we want to give scrutiny to here is 2,500. Yours might be $50. It could be $10,000. You know, you get to choose. So I put in 2,500 and then it's going to say, these are the accounts that we're going to look for transactions over that amount. And here we've selected supplies and equipment rental, but you get to choose. So you get to go through and look at the general ledger chart of accounts and select which accounts you want AutoReview to monitor and flag when you have transactions that are over that amount. And then go ahead and click to the next one. I think that was it. I think I just had those two slides. Then what happens is you're going to come in and you're going to start the configuration. And so that's where I can take over and demo because I have a company that I can go in and demo. Is there anything that you wanted to add, Hardik, or was that good?
no, I think good for now. I'll jump
Okay.
in as and when required. So
Okay, great. So after I've done that and I've opened up, and actually I'm going to go back to my practice. So in my practice, the last finalized month, you can see it's telling me the last finalized month. And because this is a new company, when I actually finalize March and April, it'll move that forward in the dashboard. So I can see across my entire client base where I am with my work, right? With my firm work. And then it's going to show me the month in progress. So this live demo, the month in progress is February. It looks like we haven't gotten very far. To open the companies, and after I connected, it would have actually just thrown me right here onto the dashboard. So the dashboard shows me the reconciliation status for my bank and credit card accounts. It shows me this beautiful profit and loss snapshot. So I can see across the months for this company what the income, cost of goods sold, and I can already see that I have an anomaly here. So if I were to change this to April, and I can switch that easily between my periods, I could see that what happened in March 2021, right? I can see clearly that we have profitable January, February, and April. So what happened? And so immediately, just even in this dashboard, before I even start going through the data, I know something's not quite right, or maybe they just had a really bad month. I don't know. And then the other thing that we have down here, and Liz, you're going to talk about the value of this later, but this shows me the transaction count. And when Liz is talking about doing the pricing and doing an evaluation of a new client, this is super important, right? Because this tells us the volume of that client, and that is going to help me with both capacity planning and pricing engagements. So So that is what in here. And I love this. You've got the hyperlink. So if I go in and I want to look at all the checks, I can just click on it. It's really easy to use. It's very intuitive. And I can go through and view these. And the other cool thing is look at this. If I wanted to go look at this check, it's almost like if I'm logged into my QuickBooks Online company, it's almost like I'm almost working in the same company, right? Because I can launch the actual transactions in QuickBooks from AutoReview. But as you're going to see once I get into the speed mode, that I can actually correct entries and do a lot of my cleanup right inside AutoReview. So these are some of the things when you're first getting started that you can do. It is very intuitive. You're able to look at this information. And then when you're ready, you can go through and you can start doing your PL, your profit and loss, and your balance sheet configuration. Okay. So the balance sheet and profit and loss configuration, this is where you're setting up checklists and rules to help you and your team determine when you should be paying attention to specific transactions. Okay. So there is a whole library of checklists that actually give your team or yourself, if you're a sole practitioner, instructions on what you're supposed to do for each one of these types of accounts. So for example, with the bank accounts, here's a checklist. Ensure that the bank account is reconciled, review unclear transactions to ensure there's no ACH, direct debit, auto pay, direct deposits, and transfer entries. And I can add that to my accounts I'm in the P&L now, and this is balance sheet, but I can add that to a particular account, right? Or I can add my own checklist. So if I wanted to look at class costs, then I could go through and I could put in, my own rules. I'm just going to call it my own rules. And so what I could do is I could add rules. So the GL total. So say I wanted to watch that GL total so it didn't go over a certain amount, right? Or I could tell it to extract transactions where the total is between a certain amount, is more than, is equal to, is less than. I can also look for expected transaction types, right? So one thing that is really helpful here is if I was going into, where's my income accounts? Do I have any income accounts? Oh, there we go. My income accounts for class revenue, maybe I want it to look at expected transaction types should be invoices, right? And sales receipts and maybe estimates. And what it's going to do is it's going to flag it if I have a journal entry or a check or whatever. So if somebody's using an income account and expense transaction, this is going to flag it. So I can set up these checklists and rules for my own firm, or the easier thing to do is just to add from the library and use the default templates, which saves you the implementation time when you're starting to, roll out AutoReview in your firm. We can also select expected payees. So you can think about this as if you take the time to really set this up, you can put your engagements almost on autopilot, right? If I know that I'm paying, the Hartford, which is an insurance company here in the US for insurance, and I say I only pay the Hartford, if I pay somebody else, it's going to flag it and tell me, guess what? You paid somebody else, right? So, and then I can also have it highlight if the GL balance is positive or negative. So think about that. If, the bank account, if it goes negative, I want to know about it. If it's maybe it's accumulated depreciation. Maybe if it's, if it's positive, I want it to highlight it because accumulated depreciation is typically a negative balance, right? So that these are basically you configuring AutoReview to really drill down based on the things that you want to look at. And what I love about it is this library, because it's got, look at this Bill.com clearing account. So you have Bill.com clearing account, you can just add to the checklist, right, for that particular account. So I love this. It's really, really helpful. And then you can do the same thing for your balance sheet configuration. So this, when you're doing the implementation, definitely takes some time, but once you get it set up, you're good to go. Hey, can I ask a question, Hardy? Because this is a question I don't have the answer to, and I'm sure somebody else is. If I create a checklist, a custom checklist for myself, can I add it to my library and then use it with another client, or do I have to set it up for each client?
Yeah, so right now it's at the client level, but very soon we are actually coming up with a global library at the practice level. wherein you can have your checklist at the practice level, and you can actually download it or export it to the individual client level. So that's going to
Fantastic.
be, yeah.
Scalability, love it, love it,
Yeah.
love it, love it. So that would be your next step when you're setting up your auto review. Now, most of it is pretty plug and play. When you have the accounts, it looks at the type of account that you have. But these rules, you would have to go through and add them to each account if you wanted to use the different checklists. Okay. And I love it because I just love the fact that it has the instructions. And as Liz was saying before, we're talking about the educational value of auto review. If I have a new bookkeeper, she's got instructions from that checklist. So she knows exactly, or he knows exactly what they're supposed to do. Right. So that's pretty awesome. I'm going to go back over here to our speed mode, which is where we're going to be going next. And I think on our slide, if you're following, I don't think anybody has access to our slides, but we're going to go through and actually show, we showed the connection, we showed the configuration. Now we're going to go in and show you how to use it. Okay. So speed mode, which is this awesome little icon right here, is where you're actually going to get your work done. And this is where you're going to, go through the data that's being extracted from the QuickBooks Online company. Now, there's a couple of things that I wanted to show you that kind of help you to work with your workspace and get it to a way that works best for you. We'll start over here. You can configure the review and resolve area and add or remove the different categories that you want to look at for each company. I have them all here. And honestly, I guess if there was clients that I really didn't have one applicable, I might want to uncheck it. But I think initially I'd probably want to have all these checked for everyone to make sure that, that I'm checking it. Did you have something to add?
No,
Okay.
that's it. Yeah, that's it. And some of these things comes automatically. So it's like, let's say you entry without class. Now that only comes up only when you enable the class, right? So if
Gotcha.
you are not at all using class, then it's not even going to show up there. So some of these things are conditional.
Awesome. So some of it's automatic and I don't have to worry
That's
about it.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So once I've kind of configured what I want to review, then I can go ahead and save it. The other thing I wanted to show you is right over here, I can see who has access to this client's company. So if you're in a firm with multiple users, you can invite your team in and then you can assign them to this team. Now I can't show that feature because I'm a lowly worker bee in this firm, and Liz and Hardik are the admins. But if I were an admin, I would be able, there would be a plus sign where I could go through and I could add my team members to each of the client companies. I can also be lazy and sign off on all the zeros. So if if there's a zero here, meaning that there's not any transactions that I need to review for each category, I can just say, hey, those are good. Just mark them off my list and notice that, it made them basically check them off. So I only had one, but if I had a whole bunch, that would be awesome. The other thing that I can do is I can change the due date. So say it's the 21st of the month, but I decide, you know what, I'm going to get this earlier. So I'm going to say 14 days and I can go ahead and update that. Remember, we set that preference when we first connected the company to auto review, right? I said I wanted all of this done by 21 days, but I can update it here. If this client, is my favorite client, then maybe I want it done earlier. And then you can, after you've done that, what you're going to do is you're going to, I have to reset because I was playing with this. So I would press the start review process for the period. So this is telling me it's due May 14th. And what I would do is I would start the review process. It would give me a confirmation that I'm starting the review process for April 2021. I would click continue. And then this shows that it's, the play button. Now it's a stop button, right? If I wanted to end the review process, I could do that. Now, just like you saw, if I hit that because I was playing around because I'm a new user, I can go through and I can click to undo and it will roll it back. So you can edit that, which is really important. And then you can also finalize the history. So those are kind of your options here. Where you can really do some amazing things is actually here in the grid. So as I click on each one of the review and resolve options, right? And these are basically the diagnostic diagnostics that I need to address for my client, it's going to show the transactions that are the culprits over here in the grid, and it's going to tell me how many transactions do I need to review. Okay, so here you're going to see that we've got the ability to edit a transaction, and if you click on it, it opens it and you can edit it here, right? Or I learned this trick, learned this trick the other day, where you just double click and it actually opens it up right inside the grid screen, which makes it really fast, because then I could go through and I could categorize the transaction right here. So I could go through and I could say, you know, auto, auto, I think it was car payment was the account. Yeah, right there. Or no, I think it was company car. See, I don't even know what I'm using here. And it's not even a real company. So you can imagine how I am when it's a real client. So I can go ahead and I can assign it there, right?
You can just click somewhere in the table, somewhere
Yep.
outside. On the table somewhere?
Oh, right in the table here.
Yeah, somewhere.
Okay, there it
Yeah.
goes. It just took a minute for it to do it.
Yeah.
And then it's going to go ahead and categorize it. And then it says there's only one left here. Okay. Now, the other thing that I can do is I can edit these columns. So if I click on each column, I can pin it, I can auto size it, I can group by date. And if I group by date, then it's going to show me all of the transactions by date. When we're looking at this one, which only has one transaction, that's not as awesome. But if maybe I was looking at this, you know, these 22 transactions, maybe I want to look at those by date. If I want to clear that, you know, basically I think of that as like a pivot table, right? Where it's moving the data and summarizing it. I can also summarize by grabbing a field, holding down my left mouse key and dropping it in. So you can actually slice and dice any way you want here, which is pretty awesome. You gonna say something, Liz?
I didn't know you could do that. That was cool.
Yeah, it was like kind of magic. And then when I go back, it kind of puts it back in the way it was. We also have the
Nice.
filters, which allows me to filter by date and then run. And then if I click on the gear icon, I can also map the accounts. So this is uncategorized entries. So this is mapped to uncategorized asset, uncategorized income, and uncategorized expense. But say I wanted it to go, I wanted to add miscellaneous, right, to this. I don't have a miscellaneous account in this company, but if I did, I could add it there. And basically our rule in our company is miscellaneous. We scrutinize miscellaneous expense transactions because we figure there probably shouldn't be miscellaneous. So maybe I would add that here. So you can go ahead and do that. And then I can also export this to Excel. So if these are uncategorized transactions, a policy that we have in our firm is when our bookkeepers are working through the engagement and they don't know what something is, they throw it in uncategorized and then they export to Excel and they add it to the carbon work item for the client work for them to review and tell us what each transaction is. And then our bookkeepers go back in when the client responds and update them. So this would allow us to export to Excel and then add it to that client task in we use IPM, which is carbon. So I love all of that. And you can even save a table view. So once you've made this exactly the way that you love, you can just click on save the table view and it will remember it for you. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, isn't this awesome? So yeah, so you have all of these. You can, you know, auto size, ungroup by account, reset your columns, expand, collapse, lots of different options. So I really love that. And again, you know, with here I can edit. If you want to, one thing I did also learn was that if you need to split a transaction into multiple accounts, you actually do need to go in and edit it. If you're just going to categorize it to a single account, then that double click works really, really nicely. So, and then again, if I click on an eyeball, I love that little eyeball. It just opens up the transaction right inside QBO, which is pretty awesome.
It is really nice because sometimes you do want to actually see the transaction.
Exactly.
Because there's notes in there or there's some type of, you know, even a bank feed. There's usually some type of detail that's attached or hopefully detail attached.
Yep. Yep.
So do you want to, are we to the point that you want to talk about reports? Did we
So
make
I
it
want to go
there?
through each one of these and kind of identify what each one of these does so people understand what each of
Oh,
the
okay.
diagnostics are. So I'm going to just go ahead and categorize this to utilities, even though it's not, to clear that just so they can see that that's been cleared. And then I can mark it as done. So you see that right up there. And it says that I signed off on it by me. So that's awesome. Then as I click on this little, I can either click down the list or I can just click the next button and it'll bring me to the next the next issue. And so here, this is entries that are posted to the parent general ledger. So how many of you, and I want to see this in the chat. Yep, I want to see this in the chat. How many of you look at those transactions that are coded to the parent account and just want to rip your hair out? Well, maybe not rip your hair out, but you're like, you at least go, and then, you want to go ahead and recategorize them. That's kind of a rule for us. And our team is actually really, really, really good at that. They're really good at making sure that we don't have things in the parent account. And so I love this because this reminds them, okay. And the other thing is that as a accountant to accountant tip is that if you're seeing this come up month after month, now you need to address the process. Why? Right? So why is it coming up every month? Now what you need to do is go back and train your team, remap something. If this is a payroll item, or is this it looks like it might be a payroll item. If it was a payroll check, then you're going to need to go do some mapping in QuickBooks Online so it doesn't happen anymore. So that's something that's really important as well. Entries without a class. So if you're using, as Hardik said, if you don't have classes, you're not going to see this, but it looks like we have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of transactions that haven't been assigned a class. So I would be able to go in and update those and assign my classes. As far as the batch, Hardik, and I'm going to have you jump in here for a minute. As far as the batch adding these, so if I wanted to assign the classes, I would do this like knowing that there were like 44 of them. I would probably just jump back into QuickBooks and use the reclass tool to assign those. Is there a better way at AutoReview to batch assign them?
Yeah, it's already in a staging mode in a way that we already developed it, but even before we release, we just kind of testing it. So it is definitely going to be available pretty soon. So
Awesome.
yeah,
But
reclassifying the batch transactions.
absolutely. I mean, the thing that I would say is that AutoReview and QuickBooks are so tightly integrated that it's really no sweat to come over here and click on that reclass tool for now anyway. But it would be nice to have that
Yeah,
batch categorization in here as well.
yeah, but
Yeah.
eventually the goal is that we don't want, I mean, we don't want to have a need for people to go into QuickBooks Online. I think they can actually do
100%.
everything within auto review. So
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah. The new vendor customer GL account. So this is showing us new vendors that were added, right? And so if I love this because this would actually feed into, in the US, we have to get those W-9s from service vendors. So this is highlighting, we have new vendors in our QuickBooks company. We need to go ask these people for a W-9, right? And then it also, we have, I'm just going to jump down here. We also have the duplicate names, right? So we can see here that we have duplicates. We have Bake Accounting and BAC Accounting, and then we have Deborah Wood, right? So I think these are kind of like what I would probably use those together, right? So new vendor, customer GL entries, and then the duplicate names to kind of make sure that you don't have duplicate names. And then if you do, and Heidi, you had told us that that's coming too, the ability to actually merge those names right within AutoReview is coming down the pipe too. But, for now you could easily go into QuickBooks and just, clean that up and then mark it off as done.
yeah, and one thing I wanted to add real quick is with the
Sure.
new with the new vendors, one of the thing is that in fact a couple of our clients said that they were able to detect the fraudulent charges because see
Great point.
In QuickBooks you don't have a visibility over the new vendors, right? So here they were able to see, and they were able to kind of look into it and okay, who are these new vendors, and that's how they were able to detect the fraudulent. So that's another way to also use this information. So
That's yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. Fantastic. I hadn't even thought of that. That's a really great use case for this. The negative zero vendors. So here I'm very easily able to see that I have a negative amount, but it's also showing me the bill. So what it's showing me is, hey, there's something else going on here. There's a duplicate entry here, right? So it kind of picked it up in both areas.
yeah,
Which is
one
nice.
is because it's unapplied. It's like zero balance. You have a bill and payment unapplied, and second, it's a duplicate. So
Right. Yep. So again, you could go back and fix this and basically add the bill to the expense and you'd be good to go. So same thing for customers, the duplicate entry. So it's basically looking to see if there's transactions that are the same amount for the same name within a certain period. And it's basically just saying, hey, look at this. And it's also telling me, and I love this, it's telling me what's cleared and what's not cleared. So if they were all three cleared, then I would say, okay, these are probably legitimate. But if I have two that are cleared, maybe this 4-1 bill is, not cleared and this is cleared, then that would tell me, we probably do have a duplicate and I need to investigate a little bit further. So love that. Love that. This is something that is just a huge time saver for us, right? Before what we'd be having to do is go in and, yeah, we'd have to go in and
Well, my thoughts here, to be honest with you, is sometimes whenever we've spent so much time in the other parts of the books, that this part sometimes gets missed. And so it's really easy to say, I'll do that later, I'll do that later. But whenever you have a tool that's calling it out
yeah,
over and over and over again, it's like, okay, eventually you want that whole list reviewed and resolved.
yeah,
So I think that that's the power of this list,
right.
is that you're working through it, and you
You
may
are.
not resolve everything this month, but by golly, if it keeps on nagging at us, we are all list people and we want our check marks.
We do want our check marks. We totally want our check marks. And in fact, I'm sure people on this call are dying because I'm not resolving this and checking them off.
I'm sure. I'm still stuck on parent GL accounts. There's 23, Heather.
Right. This is another one that we have in our practice is a big no-no. So in our practice, the entries without a name, unless it's, depreciation entries, like these would be fine for us. But these other ones, we want a name. Like we want a name. And so this is a big one for us. So again, from the reviewer perspective, if I have a bookkeeper that's working on the books and I keep seeing this come up over and over again, this is something where we have a training opportunity to kind of follow up with them and say, hey, we really need to make sure that you're putting the names in. And so and then we can start to think about proactively about how can we resolve that. Is this something that we could set up a recurring transaction for? Should we set up a bank rule to avoid having those? And that's all done on the QuickBooks side to avoid having those. We've got our unreconciled entries. So these are all our reconciled entries, and notice that some of them are flagged. So the date of this entry is before 4 days of the period end date. If these stay uncleared for 1 or 2 days, then that's going to flag it, right? So basically what it's looking at is these are old transactions that should have been cleared, and it's based on the reconciliation end date. So that's pretty cool too. Unusual entries. So the unusual entries, I love this. I love this feature. What this feature does is it looks back to see if there is a entry that happened during the current or the review period that hasn't happened in a long time. And so I think this is another fraud indicator, right? Of we paid motor vehicle department back in August, and now all of a sudden we're paying it in April. Is that right? Right. And I think that could also be a fraud thing. Or it could be like, why did we pay it late? You know, why are we having 6 months between these transactions? So it basically is piquing us to ask a question, right? Are our books reliable? Are we having transactions in the right period? Are our financials reliable? Right. Then we have our entries trend analysis. And so what that is showing us is I kind of love this a lot because, like I said before, if we're talking about training opportunities, and not to be big brother-ish around our staff, but if we see that we're having these transactions happening over and over again, even if they're fixing them, the manager can come in after the fact and review this and say, okay, we need to do another training session to make sure they understand that this is happening. So they're catching it, they're fixing it, but we want to get to the point where, you know, when we go into auto review, we only have a couple of things coming up rather than having, you know, the entire company.
Well, and it's that internal and external training tool.
Yep.
So I agree. So do we want to move over to the report, since we're kind of moving towards the end of the hour?
So these are the reports. So if we go into the reports, we have the profit and loss, and it shows you the last 6 months. We can filter by quarters, years, classes. We can change the dates. We can also add prior period, prior year, year to date. And what I love is that you don't have to go back to QuickBooks. So after you're doing this, if you want to see what the effect of your changes are on the financial reports, you can do it right here, which is really nice. So, and then you've got your AR aging, right? You've got your AP, I did AP aging, AR aging, and then your undeposited funds. So you can review the undeposited funds balances. So when I'm done, once I was done and I went through and I you know, fixed everything, then I would go ahead and I would end the review process, mark it as final review, and an update in the dashboard, the firm dashboard.
Nice.
You want me to stop sharing, Liz? You're going to go back and show how you use this for pricing, right?
I am. Yeah, I think that would be a good place to pick up and move us through. And then I don't want to forget to do the firm view. So I'm not sure if you showed that. So I'm going to start at that, Heather. The firm view where you can toggle back and forth. And so did you show that?
I did. I showed that right at the very beginning. I did show it.
Of course you did. Okay, cool. So, so one of the things that you can do, just to make sure that I call this out, is that if you wanted to share with another firm, so like Tanya is going to come in and she's going to be able to look at a demo file that we have. She's going to look at that. She's going to actually use our demo file. So we're giving another accountant view access. So you can do that back and forth across accounting firms. It's just via email address or internally. Anyway, it's kind of a cool tool. But the other thing that I wanted to call out is not only is this a great month-end review tool, but this is also great for client engagements. And this could be a number of things. This means somebody was talking about cleanup. Yes, exactly. Somebody was talking about catch up. Exactly. And then also if you wanted to do, maybe you've got a new client who's coming to you. And so what they're thinking about is monthly services. And so they're not thinking about the cleanup catch-up work. So you can actually use this to do some price strategies for understanding what are you getting involved with? What status is the books in? So the thing that you can do is you can actually gain some insights by performing a lot of those diagnostics before you start the engagement. And by just connecting, you're going to be able to start doing some type of discovery, going through and pulling out that data. And you're going to be able to give a better priced engagement. So that way you can go through and you can look at the reconciliation status. You can look at the profit and loss, see how complete it is. Being able to look at the transaction count, that thing that Heather was calling out with the parent accounts and in the GL, and then also classes, are they being used universally? And then also being able to say, what are your results? So if you looked at a QuickBooks file and the only thing that you looked at was, oh my gosh, this QuickBooks file right here has 6 different accounts and none of them have ever been reconciled. Well, at first glance, that actually might feel scary, but if you came back and you said, okay, but of the entire year, out of all of 2020, the entire year only has 433 transactions. Okay, that actually feels manageable, because now we're looking at, if all of the data is here, so assuming that you actually went through and you looked at the profit and loss to be able to tell, was it actually complete? So were all those months finalized, or is there missing data? But if they were all finalized, let's assume that they were, and there's only 433 transactions, well then these being not unreconciled is not that big of a deal. You're able to then price this engagement based on the number of transactions and the work that needs to be completed. And you can create an engagement letter that has each one of these bulleted items on it. And then, you're able to say, in our world and in the client's world, everybody has the best experience. So you're passing this engagement over to a team member, or just scheduling it for yourself internally to be able to say, what is our timeline for this? How much should we charge for this? How much time should we tell the client that this is going to take? And so there's less surprises, and less surprises makes everybody happier. And so whenever you're able to share a better experience, again, they're going to be happier with the overall engagement. So, always under promise, over deliver. That's always, the best motto. And being able to have good tools help you to be able to accomplish that. And then I would go ahead and say, Heather, do we have a poll that we can launch? Uh-oh, you're on mute.
I'm on mute. I do have a poll and I'm launching it now.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so while you're launching that poll, I'm going to go ahead and share with my friends that this slide deck is going to be up on our website. And so I want you to go ahead and see that there's some additional slides here that are going to talk you through what are some of the reasons to use AutoReview, what are some additional ways that you can use AutoReview. And so there's even some pricing here, cost benefits. The roadmap is here. So we've got tags. I'm so excited about that, because anytime that we've got tags, they're such a really great way to be able to use QuickBooks, but not everybody, it's such a big way to use. Tags are so easy to use in so many different places that I think that gets overwhelming on how to use it. So this is going to be a very good use case. But anyway, so we've got this discount code that's being offered. And thank you. We want to say thank you for this discount code, but you've got to use the promo code APPY20. So you get 20% off for the rest of 2021 by using the Appy Hour promo code APPY20.
Awesome.
So that is, yeah. So that was a lot to cover. Heather, you did an amazing job walking through all of the demo. Yeah, outstanding.
Thank you. And I have to say that this polling results was the biggest results we have ever had on Appy Hour. How many people want you to reach out to them? So I knew it. And I have to tell you, I am so excited. Thank you, Hardik and Nick. I know Nick's not with us today. I am honored that we were able to bring this to the accountants that we love, because I just love this tool so much. And fantastic. So what I'll do, I'm going to close the polling now, but I'll send you the list of the folks that would like you to reach out to them with more information.
Fantastic.
Yay.
And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close that. And then I'm going to go ahead and say, here we go. So just like all of our other episodes, you can download, or not download, you can view this later, but you can download the slides within a couple of days. And then you can check us out over on our website. You can check us out over in the Happy Hour Lounge Facebook group. So make sure to also register for Zoom if you have joined us via Facebook. I see that there's several active people over in Facebook joining us today. So we would love to have you join us in Zoom. There's a lot of chat here that happens back and forth. And so make sure that you are joining and registering via Zoom so you can participate in that chat. And then upcoming things. So we have Lisio that's going to be showing us Lisio 2.0. There is an unveiling that is going to be, you should not miss that episode. So we have a guest who is yet to be unveiled. And then we also have the ADP Accountant Summit with Magic Johnson. And Heather and I are going to be giving out prizes right after Magic Johnson. I don't know how we're going to follow that up other than I'm saying we give out prizes. And they're great prizes.
They are like amazing, amazing, like Magic Johnson prizes.
So make sure to sign up for that. Heather, can you go grab the link to register for the Magic Johnson? Thank you.
Is that?
And then we have Live Plan coming up, and then Carbon, and then AR Collect. We're going to be doing all of those episodes very soon. And we want to thank all of you for joining us, and thank you to AutoReview for making today's episode possible.
All right, I'm trying to grab that.
Yeah.
All right, I got the link address. Sorry. Here it is.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, there's going to be some really great prizes. There it is in chat. So fantastic.
So thank you so much. I hope everybody is like as excited as we are about AutoReview. We had mentioned it back in December in our top apps to watch for 2021. And so really excited. And I can't wait to see you guys have a great roadmap ahead. It's just going to get better. I'm really excited about it. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Liz, for your time.
Absolutely. Have a good day. Bye.